Hi, and thank you for watching us here at Tax Talk UK, where we talk about all things tax and try to help you understand how tax scenarios will affect you individually. So we've had quite a few questions recently about do you have to pay tax in the UK if you've received money from overseas? Really, that subject's way too complex to be able to do a generic video to help you to understand if you have foreign income, whether you should be paying tax in the UK or not. However, we didn't want to ignore the questions, so I just wanted to give you a really basic overview and the things that you need to understand and be checking if you do have income from abroad. The main thing to say from the questions that we've had is that just because you've had income overseas and it's been taxed overseas doesn't mean that you don't need to report it, or especially not pay tax on it in the UK, because that is not correct. There are scenarios where those things would apply. So in terms of, firstly, if you have to report income that you've received overseas. So this mostly depends on your tax residency. And again, I'm not going to go into the detail of how you work out whether you're resident in the UK for tax purposes. What I will pop the link in the description so you can have a read through and you can work out for yourself if that's applicable to you. You will also need to know your domicile status. So those are the things that you will need to, firstly, to understand how they impact you and whether you need to firstly report the overseas income in the UK. But let's say, for example, you are a UK resident for tax purposes and you are domiciled in the UK, then it is likely that any income you receive from overseas, you will at least need to report that to HMRC. So the next thing that you need to understand, if you find you do need to report your overseas income within the UK to HMRC, then the next thing you need to understand is if you've paid tax on it, the next question is, will I need to pay tax in the UK? So this will depend on several factors. The most important being you need to find out for the country where you earned the income or you received the income. You need to find out if they have a tax treaty with the UK, also sometimes known as a double taxation agreement. If there is, then you need to understand how that applies and whether that means that you can receive full tax credit for any tax that you've paid overseas. Important to note that if the rate is higher in the UK than the country where you've paid the tax, then potentially you still will have to pay more tax in the UK. But as I say, it will all depend on the tax treaty between the two countries. So first thing to understand is your tax residency and your domicile position. Next thing to check is any tax treaty with the country in question. And then that should give you enough information to know whether you need to be reporting the income in the UK and whether you can apply for a tax credit for any tax that you may have already paid. Just to mention as well that there are some anomalies if you're receiving income from pensions in the overseas, rental income from overseas, or some types of employed income. So if you're working on a ship or offshore gas or oil industry, then the rules will be slightly different. So it's, as I said at the start, it really is a complex situation. Even working out the tax residency and the domicile status in themselves can be quite complex if your situation's not straightforward. Interpreting the if any tax treaty with the country where you've received income, and then checking that there's no anomalies for the specific type of income that you've received. So as I say, I'm going to pop the link in the description that will to gov.uk that will help you to understand your own scenario and apply your own situation to the rules to decide firstly your tax residency and your domicile status. And also the link to the income that different rules may apply to in some situations. So what I would say is, if you're in any doubt and the guidance doesn't help you to clarify your own scenario, then you can, of course, contact HMRC for advice. But if you're struggling to get your head around it and to understand, then I would advise you to take suggest that you take the advice of a professional. And as always, if you are engaging professional to help you, make sure that they are fully qualified for what they're helping you with, that they are a member of a professional body where applicable, and they do have indemnity insurance. So sorry that probably isn't sufficient for you to understand your own scenario, but hopefully that answers the question that yes, in some scenarios, even if you've received money from overseas, even if you've paid tax on it in another country, there are scenarios where you will need to pay UK tax or some UK tax. And I'm going to pop the links in the description that will hopefully help you to understand your own scenario. But if you're still not sure, it is a very complex subject and can be quite tricky to navigate to understand exactly what you need to do and how it applies to you. So if you are unsure, then either take some advice from HMRC or engage a professional to help you. Thank you very much for watching. If you haven't already, please do subscribe to our YouTube channel. It will help you to be able to navigate back to this information if you should need to. Thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.